Okay, let's see. Post to everybody. Okay, good to see you guys. Let me start getting you promoted. So hang on just a second. Andre, good to see you, buddy. Catherine. Let's see if I miss anybody. Please forgive me. As I'm promoting you, the list names are disappearing off the list. So, and some of you move up, some of you move down.
Hey,
So,
Gary.
Hey there.
Hi. Is there a way for me to invite someone to join in on this? Because I didn't find it.
Yeah, all you do, it's the same link you use to register for this. You just share the same link with your guests. So every Tuesday, Beverly will send out the recording from the night before, the weekly email. And in there, she also provides the same link. So you literally can just send that to your guests and they can use that to log in to register just like you do,
Okay, because I've got somebody that wants to join in tonight, and I thought maybe there was a way to invite them.
Yeah, that's how you do it. So do you have the email from Beverly from last Tuesday?
Probably.
Yeah, do a search for Beverly at rewgw.com.
Okay.
And then once I'm done this, if you can't find it, I'll go into my email and I'll copy it, post it in the chat box, and then you can copy it from the chat box. So hopefully you'll see the email there. And yeah, let's see. We got lots of folks on tonight. Hey Kevin, it looks like you tried to log in on Friday to the Zoom, and if you look at the schedule, the confirmation email that came out has it for this coming Friday. Hope that wasn't, if you look, you should have that email. Well, probably you had it because that's what you would have used to log in. And the date should say the 25th on that. Now I'll be doing that for anybody that has a Friday Zoom.
I don't have any. I can't hear you.
Oh, hang on. Hey, Kay, how are you? Kay, hang on one second. You may have to check your sound setting. Let me type that in. Please check your sound settings on your device. We're not getting sound. Okay, there. Let me get everyone complete the promotions here. And I think we'll be done. Let's see. Okay. All right, I think that's everybody so far. Let's see. Tom, Michael, Lou, good to see you. Good call today, buddy. Yep. Mark, Liz, I'm going to promote you to co-host. So hang on one second.
Okay.
Hey, Kathy, were you able to find it?
I think so. I'm trying.
Okay. I'll go grab it off my email real quick, just to be safe. Let's see. Last night's webinar. Okay, let's see. Where is that link? Copy. Oops. Okay, Kathy, I'm gonna type this in the chat box real quick. There you go. And then you can copy or cut that and paste it into an email or something if you like to your guests, you know. So, okay, let's see. Howdy from Texas. Michael McGrain, good to see you, buddy. Happy President's Day. Okay, that's me. Let me check. Pennies, looks like we got a few more. So, Tom, good to see you. Kendra, good to see you. Dave Kudo, good to see you. And Kevin Keller and Betty have already promoted. So, okay. We should be good to go. And I'm need to mute somebody. Hang on one second. There, I took care of that. Can hear a little preschooler in the background. Okay, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get started here in a second. Liz Correllus is on. And Liz and I have known each other for several years. I think that was probably 2017, maybe, when I taught out there. Yep. And so 5 years. Holy smokes. And look, we both look younger. It's amazing, you know.
Yay!
So, in any case, yeah, real estate's been good. So, guys, this is a special night because, you know, a lot of what I've been able to achieve wasn't just like, you know, marketing and being a production and things like that and teaching. It really was the business structure. See, when you have a sound business structure, allows you to, it kind of forces you to be organized, be disciplined, because, you know, you have to, you know, file taxes, of course. You have to keep things organized because you're supposed to have annual meetings and things like that when you have a business structure. So it really, it's like a forced way to feel, think, speak, and act like a business person. And not only that, it really helps you stand out from the crowd when you show people that you actually have your own business. So as an agent, that can mean an S corp that you run your commissions through. And I highly, highly recommend that. In fact, a lot of the most successful agents I've known also, they did the same thing, okay? And then when it comes to property ownership, you know, we recommend simple LLCs for that. But again, it gives you certain benefits and advantages to do this. And the more I've been in the business, the more I learn more of the benefits and how wonderful it is to have these business entities. So the other thing too is this isn't just for you yourself. You want to use this to broach the subject with your investors. Okay, you can say, well, here's what we recommend as far as using the proper entities to own real estate. Maybe some of them may want to get their license too, and you can say you can structure that like a business as well. So I wanted Liz to go over some of the basics of setting those up and what some of the benefits might be. And then we can certainly take Q&A. We can take questions as we go along. So Liz, I'll kind of field the questions for you.
Okay.
But before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Anything pop up you'd like to bring up before we get into tonight's subject? Everybody okay so far? Okay. Hey, oh, real quick, I almost forgot. Did everybody see the text messages or the workplace post about ReallyFlow?
Yes.
And using, okay. So what's funny, we've been at it a year and a half. I think there's only been one time where we had a mishap, and all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks, it's become a hot topic. So Jody has the information in her orientation when it comes to ReallyFlow, where all the basic big features are paid for by us, by the team. Searching commercial properties, searching residential properties, bankruptcy, foreclosure, all the 17 different lead criteria, lead categories. The things that ReallyFlow do differently are skip tracing, and they'll charge you 10 cents a person to get the phone numbers. So what I recommend is don't even use the ReallyFlow skip tracing. Use Ansa Khalil. I'm going to grab her link for you, and I'll put that in the chat box. So hang on one second. Since I'm talking about it, so let's see. Ansa Khalil link. So this is the person you want to use for skip tracing. She only charges us 3 cents a person, and she'll get the phone numbers and the emails, and the phone numbers are scrubbed against the do not call list. So it's kind of you know, best of both worlds. So here I just typed in Ansa Khalil's Fiverr link. Okay. So the other things that ReallyFlow charge for are probate leads. They do probate leads differently than any other type of leads. So you have to pay separately for that. And then on the mailing campaigns, while we paid for all the system to do a campaign and all the marketing letters and all that, we've already paid for all that. But the actual mailing itself, you do have to pay for your own mailings. And it could be like an average of 35 cents a letter if you do enough letters, like 100 letters, for example. That's the more you do, the less costly it is. Definitely worth it. But those things you do have to pay with your own credit card. What I recommend is this: is you enter your card, pay for your campaign or whatever, the probate leads, and then delete your card. Okay. That seems to be the most common thing. And then next time you do a campaign, you put the card back out there, because it's a team account. The only way we can do this is one team account that allows us to have as many positions. I don't think we'll ever reach 1,000 team members. I mean, we might, but we're allowed to have 1,000 team members on there. So we put these measures in place to protect each of us. There's ways you can save your own leads, things like that. So just please keep that in mind. Those things that you do have to pay for on your own are usually not much, $2, $3, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to reiterate that. I put it on Workplace over the weekend and a text message also over the weekend. So any questions along those lines? Everybody okay with that? Okay. So Liz, you all set?
As ready as I'm gonna be, Gary. Yes.
You should be able to share your screen now. I'm not sure. You have a Mac or a Windows?
I've got a Mac, and so let me just see if I can figure out how to do this here. Can you all see anything?
Not yet. Does anybody have a Mac that's shared screen before? I don't have one. Hey Randy, what do you remember what it looks like to share a screen on Mac on Zoom?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I think I might have. Let's see. Can you see it?
Oh, that's
now?
it.
Yep.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Hey, hurdle number one achieved. Excellent. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I am happy to provide you some information this evening on setting up business structures. Just a little bit of my background. In addition to holding a real estate license, I have an experience background in both higher education and legal, which are two very different fields that lend to both real estate and compliance and ethics issues. My current position prior to getting into real estate has been as a paralegal, working primarily in the litigation type space, part of which revolves around some of the items that will be addressed here in tonight's presentation in terms of criteria for setting up business structures and what that all means. I do want to say with that I am not acting in a role, any sort of legal capacity. And so anything I share with you today is information based on, resources that I've pulled from. And I'm not well-versed on any sort of tax implications related to the entity structure and setup. So welcome comments from anyone on the call. Gary, if you'd like to chime in terms of filling in those pieces, that would be helpful to me.
Okay.
So as we get started here, I just want to say the overview of my presentation was primarily focused on limited liability company structure. A lot of agents, including myself, have venued down this path in the past. And so it'll outline a lot of what you can expect to do in that space in terms of setting up a registration for a limited liability company practice. Although I did see some communications go back and forth in the group chat, I think yesterday, about an S corporation structure. So I did pull in some information in terms of maybe some key differences of the two, and attach those to the base of this presentation as well. You'll see the presentation. I can also happy to share this with folks after the fact. So in a general perspective, a general overview of the business structures is simply that this is a simplified version of what the IRS puts out there as classifications. And so in looking at this, you're going to see 5 business structures, and they're categorized based on membership. I pulled out the based on membership, liability type implications, and tax implications. So with a sole proprietorship, it's a one-person membership. They have unlimited liability for the activity in the business, and the tax implications go down to self-employment and personal tax. Partnerships is 2 or more people with unlimited personal liability unless they are classified as a limited partnership. And they also have tax implications for self-employment or personal taxes. A corporation is 1 or more owners not personally liable for corporate, not personally liable for the business activities, meaning corporations' debts and obligations are theirs. Personal assets are the responsibility or the attached to the individual in the company, and they are taxed on a corporate structure. The S corporation can have up to 100 members, 100 shareholders. There's a certain criteria that needs to be met in terms of who the shareholders are. We'll get into that a little later in the presentation. The owners are also not personally liable for the business debts and obligations of the corporation. And there's flow-through taxes through the personal individual tax filings of the shareholders, not the corporation. Limited liability companies have 1 or more owners. They are also not personally liable for the debts and obligations of the business entity, and their tax implications can either be self-employed or personal corporate tax. You'll note at the bottom of each slide, I'm not going to read through each one. I just kind of want to give you a general overview here. More information is provided in terms of where I source this information from at the bottom of each slide. And again, I can either put this in the group chat a little later or provide separately so that you have this information.
You know what you could do, Liz, if you want to, when we're done, if you want to copy and paste the links in an email to Beverly, and she can put them in the the day after email after every class. She can put them in there too, Yeah.
Perfect.
And he didn't put them on Workplace too. And I do have the first question, if you don't mind, Liz, from Kay. What would be a good rule of thumb? You may be covering this in the next few slides for determining, hey, I should be using an LLC here, or hey, I should be using an S corp there. As in any examples we can, I know my own examples, and I'm certainly willing to share them too. So
I personally have only done an LLC for my purposes. A lot of the information you will see will say what makes sense for you in terms of what you're trying to do with the business. There are we're going to get into it here, but there are certain benefits to LLCs in terms of risk and liability that serve people if they're a solo person, operating their business. Tax benefits for an S corporation are very appealing to others because of the inability to do double taxation and the pass through to the personal income tax form. If you wanted to share anything there, Gary, feel free, but I think it's a personal choice based on what the goals, what they're trying to do with the structure.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm not an attorney either, but for me, I would use a simple LLC to own properties, and I would put as much as $1 million in assets in any one LLC. That was my way of spreading the risk around without having this LLC for every single property. I thought that was my risk threshold. For me, that was my plan, up to $1 million in assets in any one LLC. Other people I know do 1 for every single property. Now that's simple LLCs. For S corp, I used S corps when I set up service businesses. So property management was a service business, and I set up an S corp for that. The title business was an S corp, and brokers was an S corp. And now, even though I'm not even currently in production, because I coach and share in the commissions, those all go to an S corp also. So anything like S corps really is meant to benefit people who are sole proprietorships but basically own their own business, like a dentist who owns his or her own practice. Almost every dentist I've ever met uses an S corp for that. So the S doesn't mean service business, but my rule of thumb is service businesses where you're providing some type of service like dentistry, you're a barber or a beautician, what have you. S corp seems to work well for that. And this is what I've learned from my own personal attorney, Cliff Tuttle. He's since passed away. So Liz, you're it now. I don't have an attorney anymore, so I'm just kidding.
Oh, not it.
So, but that was really my Reader's Digest version of what I learned. I never set up a C corp. I have studied them. We've contemplated it, and there are some tremendous benefits there. But you should definitely. The best thing I can suggest, guys, is literally just you can read about this stuff and study it and Google it. It doesn't take long, and it's one of the good educations you should have in business, is understanding these business entities and their structures and benefits.
And the other thing I would say to that is, lean on your associations. In Virginia, we're required to be a part of, associations to, be in compliant with our license, and they have legal services and groups there. So don't be afraid to reach out to those parties and ask your questions, because that's what they're there for. They're there to serve you. So if you don't have a real estate attorney that you have on your team or have worked with yet and are looking for somebody, you can always go to your state associations if they have them. Go to your title companies and ask, those real estate attorneys questions. I wouldn't say to be afraid to reach out there and get some information, because they're materially operating in this space, every day, and can be a great resource for you.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say as a best practice, as you're trying to walk through the steps and see what makes sense, ask yourself why I'm considering one entity versus another. What type am I trying to maintain or obtain some semblance of protection somewhere? Is my goal more of a tax benefit that one offers over another? So if you ask yourself questions as you're, making considerations and what makes sense to set up for you, that might help you also in terms of making determinations.
Okay.
So just moving on to some of the benefits and disadvantages. And again, I'm not going to read everything verbatim. This will be available to you later, but basically with an LLC, a lot of them do start out as individual business owners, individual members. And so they're looking for some protection of their personal assets and not having any sort of risk there. That is one of the highest benefits of an LLC, is that any business activity that you conduct on behalf of the business, debts and obligations associated with it are attached to the business. So if someone were trying to do something and that's go after you for some reason, I'm sorry, let me just say, I'm sorry to keep using a litigation type perspective, but it's kind of like the lens I've had through some of this. They will not be able to go after any personal assets that you have, bank accounts, homes, et cetera. And you're not responsible for the business debts and obligations. They can attach to those only. There's less paperwork in terms of filing requirements with the state agencies. It's usually in articles of organization. They want to know who the members are. They may want to have record of any annual meetings, but that's not for all states. And there is a list of resources that you'll be able to access and the materials that come out to you that will let you go to your individual state agency and look at the criteria for all of this, for processing, filing, and setting up your registrations. The tax advantages, obviously with an LLC, is you don't pay corporate taxes on an LLC. You can, there's ownership flexibility in terms of how many owners are in there, how many people can be a part of there. And there's no restrictions, there's no restrictions on the number or the type of people or business owners in the LLC. There's no formal structure, board of directors, CEO, like you would see in a normal corporation. It's a little flexible there, and the profit distribution is flexible as well. It's done, they can be done equally or according to ownership percentages. It's however you want to structure that. And again, your state agencies will identify for you if there's any restrictions in that space. The difficulty is there is a challenge sometimes raising capital because of the investment that might be shown in the LLC space. With an S Corp, there's a stock investment of shares that are obtained as for shareholders to become members of that. And it shows, I guess, for lack of a better term, maybe skin in the game to other parties you might be looking for funding from. So you might have to go to some alternative funding options to raise capital for projects and things that you're trying to do. Let me go to the next slide here. Does anyone have any questions before I move on to how we start forming them?
Yeah, if you have questions, guys, you can type them in the chat box, or you can even unmute yourself. Everybody should be able to be unmuted.
Yes.
And even ask them verbally.
Yeah,
So,
feel free to chime in and I'll pause as needed. As we look at the limited liability company formation steps, I just want to put out there that the process is relatively simple. It does not require legal support or assistance. However, it's recommended do whatever you're comfortable with in this space. It is pretty much choosing a name of the business that it reflects the business you're doing. And you can go to the state registration sites, link in there and do an entity search. If you're thinking of a business name and you're not sure if it's going to be confusing because somebody else might already have it, you can do a search for that business name you're thinking of on the state registration site. I'll speak for Virginia because I've done it there before. And they'll tell you how many companies are already registered, the status of those companies registered with the name, and the industry that name is in. So if you're thinking ABC company, and one is for building blocks and the other is for, real estate development, you can kind of assess if the name is going to be confusing to the marketplace before you even register it. When you register at the state level, it provides you a level of protection against anyone else trying to use your name that you've chosen in your industry. And that's the whole, making it not confusing for the consumer to understand the type of business you're doing, and protecting others from trying to swoop in and, steer traffic somewhere else when it's not related or cause confusion with your brand. You can get into trademarks for goods and services and business names and all of that. Some of them do. I haven't had a large experience with that, but trademarks is also another way on the federal level to provide protection to your entity. Trade names, I have a formal license under my legal name, which is Elizabeth Correllus, but I operate as a DBA, doing business as Liz Correllus, and that needs to be registered in some states as a trade name so that people know who it is it's associated with. And you can also protect your domain name. If you have a domain name for your business, you can protect it. It's through accredited registrants, which are companies or organizations out there that you would register your domain name with. And then they will, provide you a list of the protections that they will offer, whether it's encryption, securitization, and things of that nature. There is an organization that provides you an opportunity to place a complaint if someone is using your domain name inappropriately or, wrongfully, and you can register complaints with that organization as well as an extra layer of protection. Let's see.
I have a question.
Sure.
So say you have an investment business in California, per se,
Mhm.
but you invest all over the country. So when you're trying to protect your name, are you only protecting for that state or nationwide?
You can protect nationwide. What it requires, this will come up later, but that's a great question. What it requires is if your primary state is California, and that's where you're registering your initial business, but you want to do business activities in other states, they call it a foreign filing, which means you will have one registration in your anchor state, so California in this regard, and every other state you want to do business in, you will do a filing with a foreign qualification. So it just means that your business is engaging actively in business in those other states.
Okay, so would that be a one-time thing to do in your state and spread it out all over the nation, or you have to go to each state and do the whole process over?
I'm sorry, does somebody else have something?
Yeah, go ahead, Liz. It might, you know what it is? Somebody's probably got speaker on their microphone. And that's where the echo is coming from.
Okay. I'm not totally clear on this. I do believe it's a filing in every state for, it's not a one-time situation whereby you file in California and then, it doesn't, you don't have to. And if I'm not understanding the question correctly, please, correct me. If you file in California, you need to file in all states you're going to be doing business in, and you can add to that if you expand to other states. The fees, I believe, are across the board, and they will cycle through as, normal, whatever's customary for that state.
Can you
Is that-
say again what kind of filing that is?
It's called a foreign filing or foreign qualification filing. And it means that you have an anchor business in one state and you have this same business and activity in other states. And those states are not your primary state of registration, but you're doing business in those states. You're actively engaging in business in those states. And so they require you to do a foreign filing.
Okay, so
Did
I don't
that-
know if I'm going outside the realm of what you're talking about, but would you suggest that the case that, let's say I'm in California, I start here, and next month I find a property in Arizona, start the process then, or start it nationwide initially, so when they pop up? I think it'd be cumbersome to try to do it all at one time, but when you find an investment property in that particular state, then you start to file it. What do you suggest?
Hey, Mark, in my experience, the safest thing to do is structure, like as far as the business structure is, you should have an LLC in every state in which you own property. Okay. Like in other words, don't use a California LLC to buy an Arizona property. Set up an LLC, Arizona LLC. Then you can have a parent company. You can even do what's called a series LLC, but I don't think we're getting into that subject. But you can have a parent company like I do in Wyoming, and then all the income expense flows or funnels up from the individual LLCs into the big, what we call the mothership. And again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, I'm just kind of giving you an example of what I've done, what I've been instructed to do. But every state in which you own property, even if you did own it in an LLC for another state, they're going to have you file what's called foreign entity forms.
Mhm.
So you might as well just go and set up the LLC, and they're going to tax you no matter what. So if you own property in another state, they'll want their money though. So you want to structure it so all your income and expense flows through a parent company, and then you can determine where the parent company is. So I chose Wyoming. Does that help? Mark, you're still muted.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
So it makes sense. So
Okay.
once you get find an investment property in another state, that's when you start the foreign right? You have the parent one that you start as you do business, say in New York, you set it up there. Do business
Yeah.
in Wyoming, then you set it up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so you're fading in and out, but it sounds correct. I wouldn't set up an LLC unless you know you're absolutely going to use it, because it costs money. And once you set up an LLC, even if you're not using it, you still got to file a return on that.
Yes.
And every state's going to require you to have annual meetings. You got to, some states you actually have to file evidence of the annual meetings in an annual filing. Some states do, some states don't. So only set up an LLC when you know you're going to use it, you know?
Yes, and some of the criteria I was speaking at is on this slide. So, you know, the state's categorized as conducting business activities. And this is what they're talking about. You know, you have a physical state presence of your business there. You have frequent meetings with customers and clients. You know, there's a significant amount of revenue coming from the states, and you have employees that are working, you know, that are working there in some aspects. So I would say when you get to that kind of level of activity with your business is when you want to start the registration process for those foreign filings, because they will, you know, they will start taxing you or having all the requirements come into play to maintain those LLC entities if even if you're not using them, if you just set them up. Like by merely setting them up, they're going to start their clock of doing what they need to do in terms of making sure you're maintaining your requirements and all of that, all of their criteria on the state level. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. With any entity, LLC, S Corp, you will need a federal ID number from the IRS, and it's an EIN. It's like a social security number for the business. You'll need one for the IRS, and states, you know, the states may require this one also, depending on the type of business and what is expected there, what the expectation of activity is there. So you will, again, with the links that'll come out, you'll be able to check with your state filing agencies to see whether or not a tax ID is required. And my guess is probably yes. Getting a registered agent is a requirement across the board. A registered agent is an individual or corporation that is responsible for getting your business entity any and all communications. It could be a communication as simple as somebody wants to send you a thank you letter to somebody wants to, you know, praise you for your product or say they're unhappy. Our business is required to be found. There's no way to use a PO box in this sense. It must be an individual. It could be yourself if you choose for it to be that way. It could be someone that you have communicated with, or a friend, family member, business partner, or otherwise, who wants to put their name on the state agency list as being the person responsible for getting your business communications of any kind. It can be a corporation. There are organizations out there that will set up your LLC for you and act as your registered agent, but it doesn't have to be. It's not a service that you need to pay for unless you choose to, but it is a requirement across the board in all of the states that you're going to be doing businesses. People in the general population and public and or other companies or organizations that want to get communications to you need to have a person to contact or send that information to get it to you, so that they can say that you were made aware of whatever it is they were trying to get to you. And any questions on that? Okay, we're coming back again to this foreign qualification, this foreign filing qualification. And again, it's if you conduct business in more than one state, actively conducting business in more than one state, you will most likely be required to file a foreign qualification registration with the state you are doing business in. And if there's any more questions on that, I can certainly address it now, but I think we've touched on that a little earlier. So I'm going to
Mhm.
look on here. Okay, so the state documentation and fees are pretty inexpensive for an LLC. They're not as high as some of the other business structures. And on in the LLC structure, they're pretty simplified. It's literally, pick your business name, have a registered agent is a criteria for filing. A federal tax ID number is a criteria for filing. And, maintaining any documents required from your state, which is usually an articles of incorporation will be needed to file in the state to be able to set up the LLC. And then, as Gary had mentioned earlier, some of them will require you to provide proof of your membership list and or any meetings that you have with those members throughout the course of the year, the date and time of the meetings, meeting minutes. It's very minimal in terms of the documentation requirements needed for an LLC as compared to the other business structures. But it's one of also, one of the appealing benefits. It's not heavily administrative to maintain this type of business structure,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cost efficient.
Yeah. And by the way, annual meeting could be you dictating notes to yourself on your cell phone when you're walking through a Walmart grocery shopping. Okay.
Mhm.
You didn't hear that from me, but that's what I heard, not just,
Yeah.
you could be on vacation. You could be at dinner with your spouse. And that, I'm sure you talk about your business with your significant others. That could be a meeting, but whoever is your registered agent, a lot of cases for a fee, they'll take care of these things for you. It's definitely worth it,
Mhm.
I mean, for the few $100s, I mean, why take a chance,
Right. And again, it's whatever makes sense for you. As you're starting out, you might feel like, okay, this isn't that labor intensive, I can handle it. But if you're expanding into those, other states and your business is growing, cost benefit analysis maybe to know that somebody's going to handle that on time for you and you don't have to have that on your to-do list, benefit. So definitely something to consider. Let me open a business bank account is kind of the last step. Once you have all your documents from the state agency, your articles of incorporation, your registered agent, your federal ID number, you're now ready to go ahead and formalize your business in the financial space by getting a business bank account. You will need all that documentation from the state to do this, the articles of incorporation, showing proof of registered agent and all of that to set up the business bank account. But it's a very simple process, just like opening up a personal one, just different documentation to have proof of the business entity formation. It's a very sound and best practice to do as you grow as a solo entrepreneur or even a team, to keep your business expenses and any cost and debts associated with your business separate from your personal assets. Do not transfer money across one to the other once that business account is established. That is one of the things they will look at to see if you're mixing funds and liability as they assess it. Your personal assets, as I said, is one of the protected features of this business entity. But as you're beginning to form your business, you can set up a personal business, you can set up a personal account and just use it for business type expenses and then transfer the account into a business account. But you do not want to get into the habit of using any personal funds once that business account is established into, commingling between the two. You want to keep the lanes clean and clear. So they can see, they can look at your statements and see exactly the type of activity that's been going on in the business space and as opposed to a personal space. So I just wanted to make sure I kind of emphasize that there. You do want to make sure the activity in the financial space is just as clear and delineated on the business side, not like I said, commingling in any way or fashion. Does anyone have any questions before we go on to the S Corp?
Yeah, so far so good. Well, here's
Okay.
one, hang on. Mark,
Yeah.
how do you capitalize your business, especially in the beginning, without commingling? So Mark, you're like in a single member LLC, you're the single member. It's expected that you're gonna fund the LLC. That's not considered commingling. Commingling would be you wrote checks from your business account to buy groceries,
Right.
or you wrote checks from your personal account to pay some kind of business expense. That's what they consider commingling. But the initial setup of a business, there's an expectation that the owner or owners are going to provide funding. Now, what you can do if you really want to get maximize your benefits is you could loan your LLC the funds initially. It would be a loan, right? And the business would give you a note for that principal balance. Whether you pay it back, whether they pay it back or not, it's a different story. But a lot of cases you can do that. And I've done that. I've done that also. So if I've funded even other businesses that I'm just a partner in, like in Canada, for example, by doing that. So that's not considered commingling. That's a legitimate function. So
A real easy way to do it also might be to just set up the personal business account as you're forming, getting the steps ready to form your business, and put all your membership dues, association dues, monthlies to your brokerage, anything in that, your continuing education credit, put anything in that space as you're building your business coming from that account. You can fund it, like Gary said, from your personal account, and have the expenses come out from that account to show they're all business related expenses. But again, just to echo what Gary said, you don't want to use the business type account, even if it's just in the personal account space, to buy your groceries or any other discretionary type items. Like, just keep your bookkeeping clean.
real good rule of thumb, guys, is if you look at a financial statement for yourself or for a business, you've got two parts. You've got the balance sheet that shows your assets and liabilities, and then you've got your income statement that shows income and expense. So income and expense is where you do not want to commingle at all under any circumstances. Okay. On the asset liability side, that's where you can loan business. I mean, so you can loan money back and forth and you personally can fund your business. That's on the asset liability side of the business formation. And there's, let's say down the road, you don't want to pay yourself a salary. You can do what's called an owner's draw from the assets in the business. That's legitimate too. That's not considered commingling. You're taking capital out in that case. So just remember, asset liability, you can fund the business, right, and take an owner's draw out. On the income expense side, you do not want to do any commingling or anything. Personal is your personal, business is your business. That's a rule of thumb. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another best practice to impart here, and this is for not only the financial space, but across your business in general, is keep consistent practices. If you pay your business expenses out of the business account, then that's, consistently what you do. Somebody should be able to look at your statement and say, oh, this is the business, this is the business activity. Same with any activity you're doing in your business when it comes to contracts. I know there's oftentimes conversation that comes up about transaction fee versus not a transaction fee, and can I or should I, and there's some if you're consistent in your treatment of how you engage in your business across the board, you will not likely run into any problems anywhere. And that kind of couples back to that registered agent, entity being important for people to find you, because unfortunately, there is litigation that goes on in society and people get angry for for nothing that you did other than how they might have felt at the time the experience happened. But if you're consistent with your business practices and can show, this is what I do across the board in my business, you're not likely to run any risk of liability there either. And again, lean on your associations, any attorneys that you might come across in title companies or out there, if you don't have one on your team already, to ask questions as they come up, because things are changing in these times, and we just want to make sure we're still on sound footing with what it is we're doing and feeling okay with it. Because that's the beauty of these, is you can structure these however you like.
One of the best resources is actually your state's real estate commission.
Mhm.
I've often found them very open, friendly, helpful. A lot of times you call government entities and they'll say, we don't get dispense legal advice. You can't get anywhere, but with the
Mhm.
real estate commissions, they want to help you succeed, and they actually have attorneys on staff,
Mhm.
and they'll answer your questions totally for free because you're a real estate agent in the state.
Mhm. And they have Q&A sections, articles, hotlines. I mean, they're great. So definitely lean on those resources if you have questions about anything in your real estate practice or business. Okay. We're going to switch over now to the S corporation. I am not as well versed here in terms of structure and setup. So what I tried to do is just pull out some key elements that differentiate them from an LLC. And in the benefit side, it's, that still personal asset protection applies to the shareholders of the S corporation, and that, they're not responsible for the debts and obligations of the corporation if something should go awry there. Their personal assets are protected unless they provided some sort of personal guarantee in the organization, which means they personally guaranteed potentially a loan or some sort of lender obligation. Outside of that scenario, your personal debts are protected in this structure and can't be used to collect on any business debts that the corporation might acquire. The big draw, and Gary may be able to talk to this more robustly, is the pass-through taxation. And that the organization permits the shareholders to put any profit, income distribution losses on their personal income tax return, and it will be taxed on the individual's level, not the corporate structure level. Gary, do you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah. S corps are great. They also have other benefits, like you can pay for education there. You can set up an education fund. You can, do the medical expense account, all kinds of stuff. But also, when you have an S corp, you can also have employees. With a simple LLC, it's just basic. Simple LLC to me is great for owning property. And maybe small independent, consultants and things like that. But really, they should be doing S corps. The other thing too is retirement. So, like I just set up a retirement fund for the employees of my investor services who own and run the Global Investor Agent Team. So what I did was, this next category I'm going to talk about is you can determine how you get paid when you have an S corp. If you don't have an S corp and you're earning commissions, you don't have a choice. You're earning commissions. You got to pay income tax and FICA, which is Social Security. When you set up an S corp, you can pay yourself. You're basically pass through your income tax and FICA on anything you still determine to be commission income. But like with me, when I've written books and created training material, those are assets. That's intellectual property that has value. So I literally sold those, the rights to the material, the books and the training programs, to my investment services. And as a result, I received a gain from that. a capital gain. It's just like having a rental property, except it's intellectual property. And what I also get to do going forward is I don't mind sharing this with you. And again, I'm not a tax accountant or a tax attorney, but because I did that, because I sold intellectual property to the company can now pay me a royalty for the use of that property. Okay. I get paid to use my name and my image and things like that. And royalty income is taxed like rental income. It's passive income. And you only have to pay income tax on that, not FICA, which is Social Security.
Mhm.
Does everybody follow that? You have to do it legitimately. You can't just make this stuff up. You have to,
Right.
literally, write a book. But writing a book is not the big scary thing people think it is. In fact, I encourage each one of you to write a book about yourself. Just write it for yourself. No intention to publish it. Just write it for you. Okay.
That is brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
brilliant. I love
Everybody
that.
should do it. What's that?
That's brilliant. I love that. Well, I love that you wrote a book, and I love the way that you structured that.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
awesome.
Just don't call it my tax avoidance book.
Right.
That's not what it is. And the funny thing is, Melanie, when I wrote those books, and it's just two parts here. Number one is I thought it was going to take months. So I literally got a place on the Chesapeake Bay for 3 months to write this book. And I think I've told you guys this before. It took about 3 hours to write that book. I already had in my head everything I wanted to say. And
Wow.
and ended up writing 4 more books when I was down there. But there are people that help you do it. In fact, if anybody's interested in writing a book, just email me, whatever, text me separately, and I'll give you, her name is Deemy Stevens, and she'll give you the things you need to know to write a book. As long as you have a story, you have a story inside of you. Every one of you has got a story inside of you. I promise you. You live long enough, you're gonna have a story. So just tell your story, okay? And if you can pepper in there words of wisdom, like lessons you've learned, you got a great book, okay? Now you got some intellectual property, okay? You see how this works? It's all legitimate, it's perfectly legal, and all of a sudden it'll spark inside of you something you never thought about before, and maybe you can coach and teach and things like that. You might not feel like it now, and I didn't either, but I had that burning desire, and I pursued it. I don't make this all about me. It's not me, I. I'm just, it goes back to the whole thing about the S Corp or some of the benefits, and that's led to this discussion about intellectual property. And so the intellectual property is you and the expertise you've developed in your life, in this or any other industry that you've been in. You have a story and you have skills and talent. And I'm telling you, you should share it with the world, okay? Because it's valuable.
Well, Gary, I appreciate you so much. And it's so funny because we're coming to these calls for so many different reasons and so many different things. And like thinking of gratitude today, I was like, I had to get home to my call because I wanted to be here today to make sure I showed up. And you, I appreciate you're sharing your story and helping us see the possibilities of things and also breaking it down. So yeah, it's when we see you do things and it makes it tangible that we can do it too. So
Yes.
I never feel that you're bragging. I appreciate your opinion and what you've done and how you're sharing us. Hey, I've been there and I can help you get there too. That's how I see it.
Yep.
And then you're also connecting the dots to, okay, well, hey, if you structure it this way, I mean, I would have never thought of that before. And then it is,
Yep.
yeah. So I really appreciate you. And
Oh, thank you.
I live in gratitude because you're like a bright spot and yeah, so I'm very thankful for you. And,
That's
and I
it.
love
You're getting a free training program, you know? Melanie, I appreciate you too. And I really do appreciate the feedback. I'll tell you what, guys, the mojo I get from this, that's what Melanie just did. That really, it's like, now, like I'm inspired. I mean, tomorrow I'll wake up, I'll have the best day. And I hope, my hope and worship prayer is that you will feel the same thing. And I'm telling you, it's not that hard. When I started off, you looked at go back in the video library. There's probably close to 300 videos now, which sounds crazy because I started off with none. But go in there and look at the oldest ones. They're probably horrible, horrible. But just like anything else in life, the more you do it, the better you get, So just start where you are right where you are, and I promise you that it'll be very fulfilling. It feels good to help other people, and you can't put a price tag on that, So,
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you. Thanks again, Melanie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I echo that. You help me understand that we can do hard things. We can do hard things, and it's not really hard when, you conceptualize it the
Yep.
way through your experience. So I appreciate that also.
You're welcome.
And I will just say this experience is a bit terrifying for me. I'm not used to it, but I'm getting there with with your help and your guidance. I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you.
Gary touched on the third bullet here, which is the favorable characterization by the IRS in terms of the income and how it's characterized. You can, with an S corp, draw salaries. Shareholders can be employees. They can take salaries from the corporation, receive dividend distributions, tax-free to the extent of their investment in the corporation. The IRS will, confirm that those categorizations were made appropriately. So that's one of the, risks of this benefit. But it's a great element of this corporate structure, is that you can pay yourself as an employee of the organization. And again, to help with those lenders or any other investors or institutions or organizations you might be looking to raise capital from, having that investment in the corporation, seeing that you're invested in that business structure, helps build credibility, with them in terms of potential opportunities to fund projects and programs that you have going on.
Okay.
In regards to building credibility, how would you build business credit with this type of formation, being a new business?
Liz, I missed part of that. I don't know if you could hear it all.
I missed a part of it too. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was asking, you were talking about building business credibility. And so my question is, as a new business, how would you go about establishing business credit?
Oh, to be able to borrow funds from like a bank, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or get a loan.
Well, actually,
yeah.
Yep. So what's interesting about setting up businesses, and this program's changed over the years, I can't keep up with them, but almost every state has a program for new businesses. The best thing I can say, Kendra, is I would get a hold of your local SBA office, Small Business Administration, and see what they have available in the way of grants and things like that. But they'll, sometimes they'll give you, like for example, in California, this sounds crazy, but a dentist in California, when he or she passes the dental exam and they get their dental license, they automatically qualify for $1 million line of credit, automatically, right out of the gate.
Amazing.
Yep. So those things are available for all of us, Kendra, and you want to ask them, call them up, and they'll have they call them angels or angel advisors, angel executives, I think it is. And totally for free, they'll help you out. Now, if you go into the program, they'll probably want to charge you something, but they'll give you the basics, and you'll see that some lending institutions will give you a loan through the SBA for your brand new business, Yep.
There's also the SBA guide is one of the resources that's coming out tomorrow that I'm sending to Beverly. So we'll have all of this information in terms of not only business formation, from planning a business to execution, but there's a whole host of other resources available at that site. One of the key takeaways for me from that site was they have mentorship programs, SCORE mentors, they're called, and you can look up your state. And there are individuals who are either actively working in the business space that you're in right now or have retired from that space, and they're serving as mentors for other new business owners trying to start up and helping them maneuver through the whole process of business formation or just anything in relation to their business. I'm not sure how this applies to other states across the country, but I know in Virginia, There's an organization partnership, and the name escapes me. I know it's George Mason University might have a hand in there, where they offer programs for all types of business. They offer programs at least once a month that say, you know, doing business in Virginia, this is what you need to do to set up. And they're free workshops. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person. And they literally walk you through all the different facets of business structure and operations, financials. And a lot of them are free or minimal charge, maybe 20 or 30 bucks, no more than a CE credit for your real estate license, to support you in building resources and getting information out to you regarding your business. So I don't know if that exists everywhere, but it is a huge resource here. I know located in Northern Virginia, but they do have, you know, and the application of their information is probably unique to just Virginia, but other states may offer the same. So I encourage you to maybe even just Google search, you know, business organizations or business startups in whatever state you're in, and see what pops up. The Small Business Administration is most certainly sure to pop up, but if there's any other organizations out there supporting business members or owners in that space, they're sure to pop up in a search of that nature, and see what you can source there, because they've been a great help.
And Kendra too, the other part of it is, once you're up and running and you're showing regular returns every year, you're filing taxes and you're building up a business, you know, cash flow and all that, and it gets easier to borrow money. They'll, you know.
And I can
banks-
apply for that using my EIN, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, Mark Phillips, you're
Okay.
asking if the book could be fiction or nonfiction. It's really, what I was suggesting we consider a nonfiction. You know, fiction would be like, Moby Dick, or the old man in the boat, the old man in the sea. I'm probably really dating myself here. I feel like, like, what are those books, you know? But that would be fiction, and you can get funding for writing those kind of books too, by the way. But really, nonfiction is where you want to go. I would say on your first book, it's like an autobiography. That'd be considered nonfiction. And guys, I'll put what I'd like you to do. If you could email me or text me if you want to write a book. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put Deemee's. I'll get Deemee's email and I'll post it in here in the chapter. So, Liz, you can keep going. So,
Okay, I think
yeah.
I'm almost at the end here.
Okay.
Actually, formation steps are similar to some of the requirements under an LLC, but because not all the states treat an S corporation the same, you will need to be mindful of that, as some of them don't recognize S corporations at all. So you'll need to be mindful of looking at those requirements and criteria as you investigate each state you're looking to do business in. Some of them, some states will tax profits only over a certain limit, a specific limit. And like I said, some of them don't recognize the S Corp election at all. You must, as an S Corp, register with the IRS as an S Corp. And there's a specific form that is required by the IRS and with signatures by all the shareholders that you're filing as an S Corp. And that is a requirement to be recognized and acknowledged as one for your filings and even the state agencies. They are a little more strict in their filing and operational processes in terms of record keeping requirements and meetings, board minutes, things of that nature. But they have independent life cycles. So if somebody wanted to leave the company or somebody needed to step out due to disability, if there was a death of a shareholder in the organization can still continue business pretty much undisturbed. There doesn't need to be any sort of halting of activity of that corporation due to something occurring on the shareholder space. So that's, that's kind of a good thing to have. Oops, where am I? These are your qualification requirements for, again, this will be sourced in the IRS information that comes out. Is also, I believe it's in the SBA information that comes out, but it must be a domestic corporation. Foreign corporations are not permitted in this space and only have allowable shareholders. This is just a short list of what allowable shareholders applies to. It doesn't have to be all people. It can be certain types of trust and estates, but it cannot be partnerships or non-resident, so non-resident individuals, certain corporations, insurance companies are not eligible to be a part of the shareholder membership, but you can have up to 100 of them in that space. So you can grow that organization with your shareholder members. The key registration requirement, as I said, is that form from the IRS that acknowledges you as acknowledges your intent to be registered as an S corporation with signage from all of your shareholders on it. That is probably the key difference in the filing of the registration of the two different entities. And I think we are at the end. Yep.
Cool.
That's
You guys
just,
like this?
if anyone wanted to contact me, you can do so that way. But what just questions? I'm not sure that I addressed everything or.
What is the difference, or what is, when a professional association, you see a PA after some agents and stuff's name, what is the professional association fit into this category?
I'm not sure. Are you speaking of like a certain?
It's a part. It's there's a lot of agents going around and doing at the end of the name you see PA, but it's a professional association, like an attorney or a doctor. You see, they're using that. How does that fit into this corporation stuff? Do you know what the professional associations are? Okay.
Yeah, if you want to, Michael, there's a website. The entity is actually called the Association of Associations.
Okay.
And what it is, it's actually the Association of Association Executives. And it's one of those coinkydinks. One of my nieces just happened to be a statistician for that organization. And guess where they're based out of? Just with that name, where would you say that entity exists? Where in the United States?
Florida.
No, Washington, D.C.
Wow.
So in any case, if you go in there, there's a lot of good information. And associations really don't really need much to set up. In fact, believe it or not, we actually have an association of investor agents. We just don't do anything with it because we're quite busy with other things. But you can go online and find it on Facebook, and we'll definitely ramp that up. Because it'll help you guys. You can say I'm a certified member of the Association of Investor Agents, et cetera, et cetera. And you guys will all be free members, of course. But once we get it up and running, I want to get all 50 states on board. Then it'll be a membership thing, right? And only people that can get that designation are who?
Well, this is not a designation. This is has to do with setting up a company.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, it's not as stringent as like setting up an S corp or something like that. But association is definitely a recognized entity. Now you can keep it informal, right? I mean, there's associations of stamp collectors and coin collectors and people that remember that game where you could go around the country and hide artifacts under trees and under rocks and geocaching. Associations for that. Yeah. But what I'm going to tell you guys is this, and I'm going to try to wrap this up, Michael, get back to that. Would you guys agree that before you became an agent, if you were approached by 5 agents and 4 of them had a typical business card and a brochure and a pamphlet and a listing presentation, a buyer's presentation, what have you, and another guy showed up let's say it's just say you want to sell your house with his own book. It said how to sell your house in 10 easy steps. Who do you think is going to get that listing? The guy with the book.
With a book.
So I got some good news for you. So for those of you who used to be at KW, Gary Keller was kind enough to make one book on listing, one book on, for buyers, one for sellers, available as part of what's called the public domain. And I've actually seen the same exact material at several other companies too, as from teaching. And we have it on our website. You guys can go on the website. Here, I'll show you. Let's see here.
I can share the screen back to you. I think I have to stop sharing.
I put the explanation that I found on PA in the chat to look at it.
Okay. Let's see here. Give me just a second to log in here. But you can take, you have to be careful. There's certain material, like anything that I've written that I sold to MIS, I retain rights to the original material. What the heck is this? Doesn't look like anything I want.
I got that too the other day when I logged on. I wasn't clear what was happening.
That's weird. Let's hopefully this will get me in the right place. There it is.
There you go.
So any case, that material is all copyright protected, and DME does that also, by the way. She gets your Library of Congress, IBN number, everything you need to be legitimate. Okay, so if you go into the member resources, for anybody who's a guest, by the way, welcome aboard. If you're a guest, I'm glad you're on here. This is a unique subject tonight. Normally we're talking about marketing and investing and so forth. If you go into the books, you'll see Premier Books, Member eBooks, and White Papers. Premier eBooks are the ones that I've written. I can get the source material for you, but I can't sell it to you. That's why I give the ebook away for free. It's my version of the source material. Otherwise, you have to go to Amazon to pay for the actual book. Member books, though, if you click on here, okay, these are ones that any of you can take and download, and you will have to follow certain steps, but you can actually reproduce that. It's called public domain information, and you can repurpose it and republish them. Does that make sense? You got only eight steps to a home, real estate investing, reasons why now is a good time to buy. Big book. These are the two from the KW library, but the same materials and other books. Serious buyer, serious seller. You can title it whatever you want, put your name all over it. So I know a lot of agents who do that. And the good news is you don't even have to print them off anymore. Now you can use them electronically. I would definitely keep some printed though. There's nothing better than when you meet somebody and they say, do you have a business card? They say, I really don't have a card, but here, I have to have a copy of my book here. Open it up, just like somebody signing a book at a book signing. Sign it with the big crazy letters, hand print your name, and write in your personal phone number in there. That'll make them feel good.
That's awesome.
Yep. Hey, would you guys like it if I can convince Demi to teach a class for us?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
All right, that'd be awesome.
Fantastic.
Great. One of the best marketing things you could ever do is writing a book, and you already got material right here. You can just clone, I would always personalize it up front and in the back, put your own story, your own history, something like that. But so I'm gonna make that connection and see if we can, Demi would do that. By the way, she's done all 6 of the training programs I've done and all 7 books, all of them. So,
That's awesome.
and she's a really wonderful person too. So, hey guys, let me get back here. Michael, I'm going to get back to the chat there. Where's the chat box? There it is. Did you say you put it in the chat box, Michael?
Yeah.
Wonder why it's not showing up.
Wait a minute. Mark Fear sent to the wrong person.
Oh,
Hello.
Mark Ferris, can we have it too?
I got it. I'll send it. I didn't pay
I
attention
just
to
did.
everyone. Here you go.
So my understanding of associations is you can have an informal association, like something local, just you and 12 people hanging around the campfire, or you can do an official one like for dentists and chiropractors, and you'll find out. Just go to your phone book locally, go under the association heading, and look and see how many associations are in your area.
So is that what when you see a realtor PA, that's what it is? It's just, but this is talking about like a business corporation.
Yeah. So if you, yeah. So like, now here's what's cool. All right. This is really important, guys. If you really want to niche down your target audience, like you've heard me talk about dentists and pilots and engineers and things like that, they all have associations. You can join them all, even if you're not an engineer and you're not a dentist. One of my favorite stories is when I was in San Diego, I drove up to Orange County to take Cedric Farrell, one of my old students, to the local Chiropractors Association dinner. And he said, how can you do that? I said, it's easy. I found their website, found out they had a dinner, and I bought you and me both tickets. I bought he and I both the tickets. Went in there and I said, Cedric, I don't want you to hand out cards. All I want you to do is get their information. If they say if they say I want a business card, say I don't have a business card, I'm happy to take your information. Because what's more important, for them to have your information or you to have their information?
You have theirs.
You have their information. So what I did is I said, I'm going to sit at this table over here with all the old guys and strike up a conversation. Like you're wondering who I am, why I'm there, what I'm doing. So I said, well, I'm Gary Wilson. Nice to meet you. Right. I have a team of investor agents around the country. All we do is we help folks like you guys, dentists, help them invest in real estate. They're not like other agents. They know how to identify, analyze, and negotiate on and off market deals, which is exactly what you want. And what are they going to ask me?
How?
Do you have somebody here? And I'll say, yeah, I sure do. Cedric Farrell is right over there. You should go meet him before you go tonight. Cedric walked away with 9 bona fide contacts that night for a $40 dinner.
Hmm.
Yep. And you can become a member to those associations. You can become a member of teachers associations, So any case, I don't recommend joining 10 of them. What I recommend is think of a hobby or something you like to do, a pastime, and I'm willing to bet you can find an association somewhere and join that association. You got something in common, and just be yourself, be part of let them know what you do. And then the next time you go meet them, say, I thought you guys like to have this. We talked about what we did the last time. I wrote a book on the subject. Here you go. Got my name and number in there, So associations are a great thing to participate in.
So this PA behind it is not a part of the corporation tax issue, then is what you're telling me.
I don't know that, Michael, but I don't believe so. What that tells me is that's like, you see that for accountants, anything that I would say that requires a degree, some type of degree, would be a professional association, So,
Okay.
But think about it. Anybody can call themselves a professional. Like I'm a professional gardener. I'm a professional, whatever, kite flyer. So anybody can say that, but I think that designation actually does mean something. Like it's probably a registered association recognized by the Association of Associations in Washington, D.C.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's what but you can find out by going to the website. I think that's what it is though. So,
Okay.
Hey guys, how about a big hand for Liz? Because she definitely prepared for this night. And that was some good stuff, Liz. And you had a good presentation too,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? How about I'm gonna pick on somebody because they don't know me yet. So Angel Turner. Angel, this is the benefit of being a guest. I actually call on you. So Angel, if you have any questions about any subject, I mean, every Monday night we do this. We always leave the mic open at the end for people to post questions or ask questions verbally. And if you're still there, you might be, looks like you're muted. Let me send you the ask to unmute link. It's possible she may have gone to get ice cream perhaps. Oh, there you are. Hey, Angel. Hey, Angel, where are you?
Oh, you couldn't hear me. My
No.
my camera's not working on my computer right now, but I'm here. So I'm working on getting my license right now. I don't have any questions. Like, I just thought it was a lot of information. It's very informative. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. This is a good group of people here. I mean, everybody is really friendly and supportive, and lots of talent in this room here. People investing in real estate, buying and selling real estate, not just on the team, either different companies. And so it's kind of a neat little thing we do every Monday. You're welcome to join anytime you want.
I certainly will.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody hungry for some dessert? Well, guess what February is? Girl Scout Cookie Month. Come on, guys. You know that, don't you?
Have you found them? I haven't seen them out yet.
Oh, yeah. I got my
Got
dosey dose.
mine.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, they're out here in Georgia. I think we saw 4 different Girl Scout stands this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yep. Hey,
Years ago, when I was an assistant troop leader, I had a whole group of Girl Scouts here in my kitchen, teaching them how to take cookies and use that as the crust and make cheesecakes and sell them.
Delicious.
Sounds good.
wow.
That's wonderful.
That was fun.
Wow.
Hey guys, I got a request to type in the new globalinvestoragent.com website. So I just typed that in. I don't know if the Healing House Foundation website is published yet. Nope, it's not published yet. But you can go to Facebook and see the Healing House Foundation there. So let me, I don't know the actual Facebook link, but I'll just type in the Healing House Foundation.
Okay.
The Healing, oh, we do now have, so we have the Healing House Foundation is an official 501(c) now. And for those of you who don't know, because it's just recent news, the purpose is to raise funds for those in need of housing. And it's not restricted. Like, my personal passion is helping families reunite with each other when they've been, damaged by addiction, drug, alcohol addiction, any kind of addiction. But other people have passion for the homeless, or for wounded veterans, or for single moms trying to strike it on their own and do it on their own, things like that. So the cool thing about this is we'll raise funds, but we will deploy the funds based on the need locally. So if you're in your area and you want to be your area representative, you can determine and say, hey, we want to use these funds for whatever that purpose is. As long as it's associated with housing, it's legitimate, and providing housing for people. You can actually make a house available to your local United Way or Salvation Army whenever there's a hurricane, for example, or a fire on a short-term basis. You can do things like that. And the Healing House Foundation can provide funding to help provide, pay for the utility bills for that time frame, for example, something like that. So keep in mind, it's not a very restrict thing. That's one thing when I was in the corporate world, I appreciated the fact that the bank I was with had its own association, charitable organization, excuse me. But I had my own passion, and it wasn't very lean, it was very strict. I thought, well, eventually I'll have one. And 25 years later, the dream has become real. So Andre, you and I, we could probably promote this all up and down the chain. This is something anybody in real estate could get involved in. You could ask your investors every time they flip a house, kick in, 10% of their net profit, or $100 or $50 or $5, $11, whatever it is. But just know that it's going to 100% go to the cause. I mean, for now. Later on, as it grows, we'll have to have somebody actually run it, and they'll have some overhead, but no big giant salaries and nothing like that at all. So
That's great.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, and check out the globalinvestoragent.com website. It's almost all the way done. If you have a profile out there, and I know you do because you're on the team, if you're on the call, or some of you are on the team, but make sure you send in something about yourself so we can give it to Tio to put it out there. And his suggestion was your Facebook link, your LinkedIn link, and a little bit about yourself, what area you're in, and just something to endear people to you. You don't have to have all the designations. They don't even know what that stuff means. ABR, CRS, they don't know what it means. But they do know.
Who specifically will we be sending that information into?
Send it to Beverly for now. I don't think she wanted to provide Tio's direct link. She wanted to kind of control everything to him, because remember, they work for My Investment Services. support us, but we don't, like, they don't actually, like, I know in the beginning, people were asking them to do things for them personally. But they actually work for the company, and then Tia works for the company, and Beverly runs all that. She manages all that, you know. So just send it to her for now. She'll tell us if she wants to use a different mechanism to get that in. But take advantage of it, guys, because every week I'm promoting that on the podcast every single week, and not just on ours. I'm on other people's podcasts too, you know. So get yourself some recognition, you know. Yeah. Sound good? Okay. Hey, thanks guys for participating tonight. This was an awesome subject. Liz, thanks again. It really helps me a lot because I want all my agents to have an S corp for their commission income and a LLC for their properties when you eventually do invest, you know. So this helps a lot. And that, you know what, because that, with those slides, would you want to share those? Because we can have Beverly send those out. It has all the
Yes.
steps.
I
if you
will
want.
send this slide deck to her
Okay.
as well as the links that are on the bottom of each slide
Okay.
for people to be able to operationally get in there. It's literally click, it'll take you to the state registration sites, click, it'll take you to the IRS site, click. So that'll all be in the email that the information I sent to Beverly for distribution.
Thanks so much. Fantastic.
And hey guys, next week, this is something that was requested about 4 weeks ago. I'll be digging deep into creative purchasing techniques, things you can do to get funding for buying properties that don't always require, you know, traditional bank financing, you know. There's lots of neat things you can do. We'll go over, we could probably spend a year talking about them, but why don't we go over a couple of basic ones next week? And then, oh, by the way, we may play the cash flow game online, of course, virtually on the 28th of March. Let me just double check that. So we need to do a little research here, but just that may be a real, that will be fun, you know, playing the cash flow game.
I love that game.
Oh, it's a fun game. Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll get you, when you win big, you'll be jumping up and down, hallelujah, you know. So, and there's no risk because it's, you know, it's not real money. So.
How many people can win and how many go broke?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can always tell the gamblers, they're like, you know, they'll buy everything, you know. But I'll throw in some tips and pointers too. I'll coach you guys through the game. It took a few times for me to learn it, and I had a great teacher. Actually, you guys met her last year, Rick and Anna Benez. I had on our weekly class. We play every time I go down there. We play the game, so
That's cool.
it's fun. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep. So okay. All right, speaking of fun, I'm going to go have some fun with some vanilla ice cream and some Girl Scout cookies. So you guys have yourself a good night, and we'll see you next week. God bless you and your families, and have a great week. Knock 'em dead, guys. Get out there and swing the bat. You know, swing
Thanks,
the
Gary.
bat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Good night.